The Apache woman lay frozen on his doorstep, her lips blue, her body rigid with cold, a stranger with absolutely nothing to offer. No money, no possessions, no way to repay kindness. Sheriff Owen Bennett stood in the warmth of his office, the blizzard howling outside, knowing the choice before him was simple: open the door or let nature decide her fate. Every rational thought screamed practicality. She was a stranger, an Apache in a town that didn't welcome natives, someone who could give nothing in return. But rationality isn't the same as humanity. So he stepped into the storm, lifted her frozen body, and carried her inside, teaching them both that true compassion requires no transaction, only the courage to choose mercy. The blizzard hit Taos with a violence that Sheriff Owen Bennett had rarely seen in his 10 years in New Mexico territory. Snow fell so thick it turned the world into a wall of white, and the wind howled through the mountain passes like something alive and furious. The temperature plummeted as darkness fell, the kind of cold that could kill a man in hours. Owen secured his office, making sure the fire was banked properly and the windows were shuttered tight. The small town had mostly hunkered down. Anyone with sense was inside, doors locked against the brutal cold. He was about to head to his private quarters attached to the jailhouse when he heard it. A sound, barely audible over the wind, a scraping like something dragging across wood. Owen opened the door, and the wind nearly tore it from his hands. Snow blasted into his face, but through the swirling white he saw something dark on his doorstep. A shape, a person. "Christ almighty," he muttered, stepping out into the storm. The woman lay crumpled against his door, covered in snow, her body curled in a defensive ball against the cold. She wore only a thin blanket wrapped around traditional Apache clothing, no coat, no proper boots, nothing adequate for this weather. Her long black hair was frozen with ice, her lips blue, her skin frighteningly pale. Owen didn't hesitate. He scooped her up. She weighed almost nothing and carried her inside, kicking the door shut behind him. Her body was rigid with cold, and when he laid her near the fire, she didn't move or respond. "Stay with me," he said, adding wood to the fire quickly. "Come on now. Stay with me." He removed the frozen blanket carefully, checking for frostbite. Her fingers and toes were dangerously cold, but he'd caught her in time. He wrapped her in his own wool blankets, rubbing her hands and feet to encourage circulation, positioning her close to the fire, but not too close. For long minutes she remained unconscious, her breathing shallow and rapid. Owen prepared warm water, not hot, which could be dangerous, and waited. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, he fought against death with the only weapons he had: warmth, time, and stubborn determination. Finally she stirred. Her eyes opened, dark and disoriented, and she jerked back in fear. "Easy," Owen said, keeping his voice calm. "You're safe. You collapsed outside my door. I'm Sheriff Owen Bennett." She stared at him, shivering violently despite the blankets, trying to speak, but her jaw was locked with cold. "Don't try to talk yet. Just warm up." He brought the water to her lips. "Small sips, that's it." As the woman gradually warmed, Owen prepared a simple meal: beans, cornbread, and coffee. She watched him with wary eyes, pulling the blankets tighter around herself. When her shivering finally subsided enough to speak, her voice was hoarse and uncertain. "Why did you help me?" Owen glanced at her, surprised by the question. "You were freezing to death on my doorstep. What else would I do?" "I'm Apache." She said it like a warning, like an explanation for rejection she'd already experienced. "I can see that." Owen handed her a plate of food. "Doesn't change the fact that you needed help." She took the plate but didn't eat immediately. "I have nothing to give you. No money, no possessions, nothing to trade." Her eyes met his with fierce honesty. "I cannot repay this kindness. Did I ask you to?" The question seemed to confuse her. She looked at the food, then back at him. In my experience, white men do not help for free. There is always something expected. Owen sat down across from her, his own plate untouched. I'm not helping you because I expect something back. I'm helping you because you're a human being who needed help, and I could provide it. That's all. That's all? Skepticism colored her voice. That's all. She studied him for a long moment, then began to eat slowly. After several bites, she spoke again. My name is Chenoa. I was traveling from the reservation to find work. I thought I could reach town before the storm. She looked down. I was wrong. Where's your family? Dead. Husband, children, all gone. Fever took them last year. Her voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone who'd grieved past the point of tears. The reservation had no place for me. A widow with no family, no trade. I became a burden, so I left. Owen listened without interrupting as she explained her situation. She'd been walking for days, trading what little she had for food along the way. By the time she reached Taos, she had nothing left. No supplies, no shelter, no plan beyond survival. I knocked on doors, she said quietly. Asked for work, for food, for anything. Everyone turned me away. Some were kind about it. Most were not. She met his eyes. You're the only one who opened the door. Well, technically you collapsed before you could knock, Owen said, attempting lightness. Then, more seriously, you can stay here tonight. Tomorrow, when the storm clears, we'll figure out what comes next. I told you I have nothing to give. And I told you I'm not asking for anything. Owen stood, gathering blankets. You'll sleep by the fire. It's warm and safe. That's all you need to worry about tonight. The storm lasted 3 days. During that time, Owen cared for Chenoa with a matter-of-fact kindness that asked nothing in return. He shared his meals, gave her clean clothes that had belonged to his late sister, and tended to the frostbite on her fingers and toes with careful attention. Chenoa remained wary at first, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for demands, for expectations, for the price of his generosity to be revealed. But it never came. Owen simply helped. He brought her food when she was hungry. He stoked the fire when she was cold. He gave her space when she needed silence, and conversation when she needed distraction. "Why are you doing this?" she asked on the second day, watching him prepare breakfast. "Because you need help, and I can provide it," Owen repeated his earlier answer. "But why? What do you gain?" Owen paused, considering the question seriously. I gain the knowledge that someone who needed help received it. That's enough. That's all. Chenoa, I don't know how to explain it any clearer. I'm not keeping a ledger. I'm not expecting repayment. You were dying, and I had the ability to prevent that. Everything else is just details. She was quiet for a moment. In my culture, gifts create obligations. To receive help without offering something in return is... She struggled for words. It feels wrong, like I owe a debt I cannot pay. Then consider it paid by simply accepting the help, Owen said gently. Not everything has to be a transaction. Sometimes kindness is just kindness. On the third day, Chenoa was strong enough to help with small tasks. She insisted on contributing, preparing meals and tidying the office with quiet efficiency. Owen didn't argue. He understood the need to feel useful, to maintain dignity through action. "You're a good cook," he commented over dinner. "My grandmother taught me." A small smile crossed her face, the first he'd seen. She said a woman who could cook well would never go hungry. She was wrong, but I appreciated the sentiment. She wasn't entirely wrong. You've got skills. That matters. Skills don't matter when no one will hire you. "Then I'll hire you," Owen said simply. Chenoa's head snapped up. "What?" "The jailhouse could use regular cleaning and cooking. I'm terrible at both. You're good at both. Simple arrangement. You're offering me work? Out of pity? Out of practicality. You need work." "I need help. That's not pity, that's mutual benefit." He met her eyes. "Though I'll warn you, it doesn't pay much." I don't need much, just enough. Her voice softened. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen what a disaster my kitchen is. When the storm finally cleared and the town emerged from their homes, word spread quickly about the Apache woman staying with Sheriff Bennett. The reactions ranged from curious to hostile. Lucas Mitchell, who owned the general store, cornered Owen on Main Street. Is it true you're harboring an Apache woman? I'm not harboring anyone. She's working for me. Owen, you know how people feel about Indians in this town. Having her here, it's going to cause problems. She nearly froze to death. What was I supposed to do? Let nature take its course, Lucas said bluntly. Look, I'm not saying it's right, but that's reality. She's got no people here, no connections. Taking her in just makes you look foolish. Then I'm foolish, Owen's voice hardened. But I'd rather be a fool who helped someone than a practical man who let someone die. The whispers followed him. People questioned his judgment. Some suggested inappropriate motivations. A few outright demanded he send Chenoa away. Owen ignored them all, continuing his daily routines with Chenoa working quietly in the background. One evening, as they shared dinner, Chenoa spoke. I'm causing you trouble. People talk. They always do. It's more than talk. I see how they look at you now, with disappointment, suspicion. She set down her fork. I should leave. Go somewhere else. Where? Owen asked directly. Where would you go, Chenoa? What town would be different? She had no answer. You're doing good work here. You're earning your keep fairly. What anyone else thinks about it is their problem, not yours or mine. He met her eyes. Unless you want to leave. That's different. But don't leave because of what others think. That's giving them too much power. You're risking your reputation for someone who can give you nothing in return. I'm not risking anything that matters. Owen's voice was firm. My reputation is built on doing what I believe is right. If helping someone in need damages that, then the reputation wasn't worth having in the first place. Winter gradually loosened its grip on Taos. By March, the snow had melted enough for travel, and the town settled back into its usual rhythms. Chenoa had become a fixture at the jailhouse, her presence no longer noteworthy to most residents. Some still disapproved, but most had moved on to other gossip. One afternoon, a young boy wandered into the office, lost and crying. His family's wagon had broken down on the outskirts of town, and he'd gotten separated while exploring. Chenoa was the one who calmed him, speaking softly and offering him food while Owen organized a search party. When they reunited the boy with his grateful parents, the mother grasped Chenoa's hands. Thank you for taking care of him. Thank you so much. Chenoa looked startled by the gratitude, as if she didn't quite believe she deserved it. Later that evening, Owen found her on the porch, staring at the mountains turned gold by sunset. You were good with that boy, he said. I remember having children. Her voice was distant. I remember what they needed when they were scared. You still have that kindness in you. After everything you've lost, you're still capable of caring for others. Chenoa turned to look at him. You taught me that, or reminded me at least. I didn't teach you anything. Yes, you did. Her eyes held his. You showed me that compassion doesn't require a reason, that helping someone doesn't need to make sense financially or practically, that sometimes the only thing that matters is that someone needs help and you have the ability to give it. She paused. You asked nothing of me, expected nothing, demanded nothing. You simply helped. I'd forgotten that was possible. It should be the norm, not the exception. Maybe, but in my experience it rarely is. She smiled, a genuine, warm smile that transformed her face. You saved my life, Owen. Not just from the cold, but from the belief that no one cared whether I lived or died. You gave me back something I'd lost, the faith that human kindness exists without strings attached. Owen felt uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what anyone should do. But most don't. That's what makes it matter. Chenoa looked back at the mountains. I still don't have much to give. Probably never will. But I can give you my gratitude, my loyalty, and my work. It's not payment. You're right that there is no debt, but it's what I choose to offer freely. Then I accept it freely. Owen stood beside her, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. You know, there's an empty cabin on the edge of town. Old Mrs. Patterson died last month, and her family's looking to rent it, if you wanted your own place. Can I afford it with what you pay me? We can work something out. Chenoa considered this, then nodded slowly. I'd like that. A place of my own, to build something again. The mountains stood eternal against the changing sky, witnesses to countless small human dramas of survival and compassion. In a harsh world that often rewarded only strength and self-interest, Owen Bennett had chosen differently. He'd chosen mercy without transaction, compassion without expectation, and in doing so had reminded someone that their life had value simply because they existed. Not all heroism comes with badges and gunfights. Sometimes it arrives quietly in the simple decision to open a door to someone freezing in a storm, to share what little you have with someone who has nothing, to demonstrate through action that human worth isn't measured by what we possess or can give, but by our inherent dignity as living beings deserving of basic kindness. As night fell over Taos, the jailhouse glowed with warm lamplight, a beacon of the radical revolutionary idea that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is help someone simply because they need help and expect nothing in return.